a slow Super Bowl weekend, a Fallout Season 2 review, and so much more in this episode of Beyond the Screen. Hello, everybody, and welcome to an exciting post-Super Bowl edition of Beyond the Screen. I'm your host, Ryan, and with me, as always, is Jake Holtzclaw. I hope you guys had a fantastic Super Bowl season. The end of the weekend, or the not the story of the weekend. We're not there quite yet, but that is a good point to pull that up because it was a slow weekend due to the Super Bowl. But the Seahawks are officially Super Bowl champions. The Patriots are sent home, which is a great time to be alive for all my sports fans. But I'm not here to ask about the Super Bowl. I'm dropping it on my lovely co-host very, very early. And you know what I'm going to ask about. You see Bad Bunny or you see Kid Rock?
I saw Bad Bunny. I don't know. How do you choose? How do you choose?
You could have gone to like the Turning Point YouTube or gone to like Trinity Broadcast Network's channel, which is like a free broadcast
service.
Would
I change my...
I don't know. A lot of people did. I think across all, it was like 10 million, 12 million people. But the problem is Bad Bunny.
You know how many people watch Bad Bunny?
I was about to say, across the world, it was 112 million or something crazy like that.
So it was 158.
Oh, yeah.
It broke records.
More than likely did internationally. Last I saw, I think it was at 110 this morning, but obviously throughout the day, they must update. So,
and then all the people who had Super Bowl watch parties, it's not just, that's 100 and whatever million, whatever it actually comes out to be.
Yeah.
Times however many the average Super Bowl watch party size is. Because 6 people could be an average. 4 people could be some people have 30 people parties.
I know. Bro is the most popular. Bad Bunny is the most popular artist in the world. That's not like an opinion. That is data driven, hard numbers, black and white. He is the most listened to artist in the world right now. Yeah. And so it is not shocking that he drew in over 150 million viewers worldwide for a halftime show, which was probably about 13 minutes. So yeah, I thought it was a good time. I
went to a mega church service because I've got some buddies that go and also are a part of the band. And they say, if you're going to come to church any day of the year, you have to come to this church for Super Bowl because they do spoof commercials. They have full on concerts where they play covers. And yes, they will they have 4 pastors and they will preach 8 minutes each. And they have to use props that were given to them by the opposing team. So there's 2 and 2, and they earn points if they use the prop and they're engaging. And it was full on, they were playing a game with their preaching. And you could, the other team could challenge.
Oh, that's cool.
There was a ref that would throw a yellow flag and deduct points.
Oh, that's actually pretty fun.
Yeah, one of them used unk too many times, and he said pandering to the youth, deducting 3 points. There was another one that another pastor, it got a flag was thrown because he was holding on to the past because he was talking about
oh wow.
Because he was bringing up the whole I don't even know who this Bad Bunny is, but the whole reason for bringing Bad Bunny on is the new generation, the new it's at the end of the day, the Super Bowl is a business, and you want to get as many viewers as possible. And the youth, they're the next ones. They want to see Bad Bunny, proven so with the record-breaking viewership.
Yeah.
And so that's long story short was that point was, it's a no-brainer to go after our generation now because that's everybody's going to be watching it. And then like you had said, maybe 10 million switch to Kid Rock. And it was well, 10 million, right? Are you going to really show Kid Rock to 10 million people? No. We're going to take the bet that Bad Bunny's going to get the viewership.
Right. And it makes sense that 10 to 12 million would tune into Kid Rock because Kid Rock still has that. I mean, he's he's from the 90s. Like, there's going to be 10 to 12 million old heads who would be interested in Kid Rock because they grew up with him, right? So it's like that makes a lot of sense. And the thing is, what's most interesting to me about it, and we're talking about it not as a political piece because it's a part of entertainment, a part of media, so it is fascinating to kind of divulge from a technical standpoint, from a viewership standpoint. But the best part about it was because if you tune into anything news related, everyone's trying to make it political in some way, shape, or form. Neither show had a hint of political anything.
Right.
Neither
People
one of them
were-
was one of them was put on by Turning Point USA, and the show wasn't political. So
People were more worried about Green Day saying something at the beginning.
dude, they didn't even. So for those who are unfamiliar with like Green Day and like why it's so controversial, not just because they're Green Day, they have been changing their lyrics to specifically target the administration. They didn't even play the part that they changed the lyrics to. They completely skipped over it. So the song American Idiot, they completely skipped over the part where they talk about the MAGA agenda. They completely cut out where that lyric would even go in. And so it makes you wonder. And I've seen videos come out that the pre-Super Bowl show that they performed, because they didn't just perform like on television. They performed for the fans before anything Super Bowl even started. I think it was like in the parking lot. And there they had like a politically charged whatever. And I think that was intentional. I don't know. Like, there's been a lot of like questions of like, why bring on Green Day if you're not going to let them be Green Day? But whatever happened, it worked because they didn't do anything on live television, which, you know, like, it was a good show. Like, I like Green Day. They're fine. They're not my favorite. Bad Bunny put on. I thought he was fun. Like, I just thought his performance was fun. Like, it was just a lot of good energy. Like, is what it was. Like, jumping around, and some of the messaging in there was pretty fun. But it wasn't political. It never was political, which I thought was very fascinating from either side. Seeing the stuff come out of the Kid Rock performance after the fact. But
I
anyway.
enjoyed it. It's just like I think a lot of people are just like, man, I wish I knew Spanish now.
Yeah,
Like, would have thoroughly enjoyed, like more thoroughly enjoyed the halftime show if I knew Spanish.
yeah. I
Like,
mean,
he's got good songs, great vibes. He could be singing about whatever.
yeah. That's a distinctly American problem, though, is that we're chronically one language speaking, unlike the rest of the world that's usually more or less bilingual. But at least know enough to get
They have
around.
to learn English for us.
Right. Yeah. More. Yeah. Because of all different reasons. But anyway, fun weekend all around. I guess that's kind of chit chatting with the boys. We had the Super Bowl. And so I hope you had a good time. I hope your team won. And if you're a Patriots fan, I don't feel bad for you because you had a long time of being on like the people that gave us crap. So as your local Bengal fan, I'll take this one. I hate the Pats so much.
Y'all almost made it.
They're close. Also, I don't know. I'm not one. This will not be a sports podcast, but I'm not one to usually harp on like strength of schedule because you have to be good to win the games, even if your schedule's easier than others. Like, there is a level to that. Like, there's a skill in and of itself. But when you look at their schedule, the amount of coaches that were fired from their schedule because they played so many bad teams, and like when you look back through their playoff, like the route to the Super Bowl, I don't know. They played a guy who has a history of playing terribly in the playoffs, another guy who's also had a terrible history in the playoffs, and then they played a backup quarterback because old Bo Nix broke his ankle, and then they ran into an actual team and they got blown out. So I don't know. There might be a little bit more merit to this one than others in years past, but anywho, we will move on past the Super Bowl and we will get into our first segment, which is always box office news. To start off each segment, each and every week, we take a look back at our predictions from last week. So last week, we predicted what the box office would look like this week. So let's look at what we predicted going into this week. So I had, going into this week, Send Help, Dracula at 2, Solo Mio, the Kevin James film, at 3, Iron Lung returning at 4, and Zootopia 2 at 5, because, as you know, the rabbit never dies. Or does it? Jake predicted Send Help at 1, The Moment at 2, Iron Lung at 3, Dracula at 4, and Zootopia 2 at 5. We also have a fun little caveat in our game, in our prediction game for each and every week, and that includes Jimmy, the lovely bot. He is chat. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen who are new. We compete against AI to see how accurate we can be. And thus, Jimmy predicted twice this last week. His first prediction was Send Help. Iron Lung, Buffalo Kids, which was a random pull at 3. Even Stranger was literally The Strangers Chapter 3 at 4 and Zootopia 2 at 5. And then we thought, well, what if he was on coke? And what we mean by that is, what if we gave him a little bit more information? What if we allowed him to pull from more sources? What if we allowed him to go deeper into the realm of the internet for a more thorough prediction? And when we did that, his predictions changed. So it went from number 1 was still Send Help, but he had The Strangers Chapter 3 jumped up to 2, Solo Mio at 3, Iron Lung at 4, and Avatar Fire and Ash at 5. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that one was worse than the original. Let's break down. Let's see how me and Jake did before we get into chat. I got 1 out of 5 correct, and that was Send Help at 1. Jake got 2 correct. That is Send Help at 1 and Iron Lung at 3. So good job, Jake. And he was very close. He was very close with another few predictions, which we'll get into later. But Jake was very close to having 3 or maybe even 4 out of 5 correct, had it not been for a certain flipping here and there. Let's check on how chat did. Also with me, Jimmy's original prediction was 1 out of 5. In fact, so was Jimmy on coke. But somehow Jimmy on coke was worse than Jimmy just being Jimmy. They both were 1 out of 5, but throwing The Strangers Chapter 3 at 2 is just insane to me. Anywho, Jake wins the weekend, predicting 2 out of 5. So congrats, Jake. Congrats, Jake. Thank you. Good job.
It's like my average. I just wait for Ryan to have a bad week.
Jake wins the week. Hang in there with this prediction special, because as we continue throughout, especially going into season 3, we have a fun little twist we're going to add to it moving forward. But hang in there. If you like the predictions, it's about to get a lot more competitive, and you will see what we mean later. But anywho, let's get into the stories of the weekend. We talked about it a little bit about it earlier. While major distributors decided to sit out the sports-filled weekend, the indie distributors capitalize and fill the box office with the Super Bowl. The top 5 are as follows. Send Help is 1, Solo Mio at 2, Iron Lung comes back at 3. We have at 4 a documentary concert film sort of thing from the K-pop band Stray Kids, finishing at 4th, and then Dracula coming in at 5. So let's go back to the top and let's break down those numbers. Starting at number 1, we have Sam Raimi's and Rachel McAdams starring Send Help in its second weekend in theaters, earning $10 million domestically. That global tally is now up to $53.7 million, all while on a $40 million budget. While dropping 47% over the Super Bowl weekend, this is actually a pretty decent mark when all things are considered. In years past, the Super Bowl weekend has been a terrible weekend for films, and a lot of films suffered because of it. However, a horror film that usually drops a lot more than 47% was able to hold on despite there being the Super Bowl. So Sam Raimi's horror film still has a lot of firing power behind it. This also marks the highest grossing Rachel McAdams film since her lead role in 2018's Game Night. So a return to norm for Rachel McAdams, one of the darlings of the early 2000s, even into the mid to late 2000s, back at the top of the box office, starring beside Dylan O'Brien. Finishing second is Solo Mio with $7.2 million earned domestically in its debut on a $4 million budget from Angel Studios, a very thin budget with a Kevin James lead. According to the dailies, the rom-com style of humor led by Kevin James hit well with Angel Studios' faith-based audience, and the review scores reflect as much. The film earned a 76% on the tomato meter thus far, and a 96% on the popcorn meter, something that's kind of hard to believe, all things considered. Again, this is Kevin James' best opening since Here Comes the Boom in 2012. It doesn't feel like it's been that long since Kevin James has been, like, I don't want to say relevant, because I feel like since then we've gotten a Paul Blart or two, but Kevin James hasn't been at the top of the box office in a hot minute. He is back with Solo Mio, what is being, on their own socials, they're touting it as the date night film of the century, right? Highly reviewed. Kevin James is back. The Rotten Tomatoes synopsis of the film includes, quote, "A wedding disaster leaves the groom stranded in Rome, heartbroken in the world's happiest city. But with one determined local and a few meddling vacation couples in his corner, his ruined honeymoon becomes an adventure he never expected, because sometimes heartbreak is just the first chapter of a better story." A surprise, as this is one of our big winners, again, of this past weekend, with a $4 million budgeted film starring Kevin James, almost doubling its production value in its first week, during the Super Bowl, no less.
Which he went, didn't he do like a publicity thing at the Super Bowl?
Yes, in his like wedding tux as the character, shaved
Holding
head
the
and like,
flowers.
yes, sitting in the seat, acting all sad. Which, let's talk about the marketing for Solo Mio. what a fantastic job by Angel Studios.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit about it last week when we were going over the predictions. This is the one where Kevin James was Mr. Taylor, the teacher, and they tried as hard as they could for as long as they could to keep it a secret that was actually Kevin James, but the internet was like, that looks just like Kevin James. No way, that's not Kevin James. And that, I feel like that's what got a lot of this vibe, or like a lot of this intrigue in it, and why it's, again, almost doubled its production value. But, I mean, also, people just love a Kevin James in a down-and-out scenario, right? We've named a couple of other, like, think of Kevin James' best roles, or at least his most highest-grossing roles, whether it's Grown Ups, right? Whether it's Paul Blart Mall Cop, whether it's Here Comes the Boom. What is he? He is an underdog. And this might be a little bit more, again, it's Angel Studios, so it might not be as raunchy, or it might not be as Adam Sandler-esque as some of his others. Seems to be right on the money for fans of his and for the studio itself. Finishing third, as we had said before, is Iron Lung. Markiplier strikes again. He returns to the top 5 in the box office in his second week, earning $6 million domestically, pushing its global tally to $34.4 million. Despite a 67% drop in sales, the film has still earned 10 times its budget in just a couple of weeks, which is insane for an indie distributor. This is, again, we said it last week, a major win for indie filmmaking. Yes, he's a guy who is of privilege. He is a guy who is already very successful, but the fact that he can throw just under $3 million of his own money and make back over $30 million is fantastic for those who want to just go out and make films like us in this call, and hopefully you at home as well. Something of note as well, the creator himself, Markiplier, has gone on his socials to say that his production team and everyone who worked on the film get major bonuses because of the high earnings, the high returns. So again, just wholesome. This is a great, great thing for indie filmmaking. Going back to
we'll
fourth,
get that right.
Us, yeah, we helped out so much.
I mean like on ours.
Yes.
Okay.
One of these, if not the one we're working on, because the one we're working on, we've done a great job, is what I will say.
I think Ryan's more excited than he's ever been.
There was a hot minute there where I was like,
how are we gonna fix this?
How are we gonna fix these things? But we will plug whenever it's time to start marketing for this. We'll probably plug this every week. But the way that it's molded, I am very happy about. And the returns we've gotten from our test audiences have me happy and excited about releasing it. So anywho, yes, and to an extent,
small tease.
Yeah, with an extent, yes, we will get that, but maybe not to that extent, if you know. You know what I'm saying? No, I know.
You gonna hog it all?
Sierra, you gonna hog it all? Anyway, hi, Sierra. Anywho, finishing fourth is Stray Kids, which I don't think either of us, I think you might have mentioned it once last week. I don't remember seeing this anywhere. I said it at the top. This is a K-pop concert film. It's a documentary about a performance, Taylor Swift style, Eras Tour style, and it popped off on Friday, especially earning the majority of its 5.697. Jake added a few digits on me there.
Well, it just finalized.
Got you.
Finalized.
That's okay. Of its almost 5.7 million, it earned the majority of that in the States on Friday, dropping off considerably as it got closer to Sunday, which is as expected with the Super Bowl. The film has earned $19.1 million globally. So a success for the K-pop industry. And rounding out our top 5 is Dracula. If you needed another vampire Dracula film, it's here, starring Christoph Waltz. The debuting film earned $4.4 million domestically and $33.1 million globally, all on a $52 million budget. So it still has a lot of opportunity, especially in its debut, and especially internationally, to earn money for this production company. Well, not doing much here. We won't talk about this a lot. Something interesting is the film's success in Russia, of all places. As according to the dailies, the film earned like 20 to 25 million just in Russia alone, which is an odd place. We don't usually talk a lot about the Russian film scene, but apparently it popped off there. The Rotten Tomatoes synopsis of the film is, quote, when a 15th century prince witnesses the brutal murder of his wife, he renounces God and damns heaven itself. Cursed with eternal life, he is reborn as Dracula, an immortal warlord who defies fate in a blood-soaked crusade to wrench his lost love back from death, no matter the cost. On the verge of reuniting, Dracula is hunted by a restless spirit priest, sworn to end his immortal reign. Which I think it's funny that he's like, I see her after all this time. And Christoph Waltz is just like, like finger wagging. No, no, no. It's just poor guy. Like it kind of, when you think about it, it's kind of sad. But anyway, the film has a 55% on the tomato meter and a 79% on the popcorn meter. So critics weren't as high on it, but fans seem to like it. Other news from around the box office. The rabbit died. The rabbit died. I feel like
I watched it.
I feel like all the townsfolk in The Wizard of Oz, when they're like, the Wicked Witch is dead, and they're like jumping around singing like Zootopia 2 died, fellas. It's gone. It's out of the top 5, dropping finally, and who knows, it might have a great week next week and jump back up. I doubt it actually with some of the releases, but Zootopia finally drops out of the top 5, and so does Avatar Fire and Ash, which Avatar Fire and Ash, the third installment, misses every single milestone that the first two set. The first two were in the top 5 for, I believe, 13 and 11 weeks, or maybe the original was more than 13. So a lot of concern for the fourth installment, which we're more than likely going to get. More than likely, there will be a green light from Disney. How they're going to cut corners in order to keep making money, because more likely than not, you're going to keep seeing diminishing returns. Who knows? But anyway, Fire and Ash finally falls out of the top 5. The Strangers Chapter 3 debuts to an abysmal 3.5 million, which, again, what are you talking about, Jimmy? Chat? Putting The Strangers Chapter 3 at 2, or even 4 for that matter. That's ridiculous. And Melania, yeah, you know, everyone's favorite documentary.
Your favorite documentary.
You just can't believe it. I can't believe it, Jake. Melania dropped almost 70%. Almost 7. Hit it again. Almost 70%. Almost 70%. Hit that sound effect again. Almost 70%. Thank you. From its first week to its second week. If Amazon wants this to be successful, because again, they spent almost $100 million on it just to buy it and to produce it, it needs to make over $100 million. The hope is that once it hits Amazon, it will absolutely become a fireball and start making money.
Sure.
It dropped from 3rd to 9th in 1 week. Which, let's put it this way. Iron Lung and Melania both dropped the exact same percentage, 67%. Like, they both dropped the exact same. Jake, his brain rot triggered for a second there. I'm sorry.
The same people.
Oh, no. No, but anyway.
Isn't that crazy, though? Isn't that, like,
they both
same drop, but definitely percentage. Different demographic.
I know. But the difference is that Iron Lung, again, it's a horror film with a YouTuber-led audience that most would have front-loaded it. Melania is a doc, which, if we remember last week, it's the best opening for a doc in like 15 years. But it dropped 70%. Again, it's a Super Bowl weekend. It's a documentary, so it's kind of like, what do you expect? But that's still as steep. Either way. Any other thoughts from around the box office beyond the top 5?
Buffalo Kids, 44.
Oh my God! What? Whoa!
Limited release.
What was Chad thinking?
As well as something that I had chose got a limited release. Didn't it? Which one did I choose?
The Moment.
Yeah. The Moment got 58. I don't know, 580 theaters. Also limited release. So I was robbed.
It is hard. It is really hard to do this. It's fun to do this, but like,
yeah,
it's tough whenever you just get lied to. Like, just outwardly lied to by IMDb.
I'm pretty sure I was using
Movie Insider.
I was using the numbers.
The numbers, yeah.
Thought I could trust them.
They lied.
I think they're doing as best as they can, just like us. I think everybody is.
It just amazes me, as long as we've done this, how there's no formula or there's no like consistency with what numbers are released where. It's just kind of like they say, like, distributors are like, yeah, we'll do it wide, and then they could just choose to go to 580 theaters on a whim. It's like, how could you say it's releasing? That's not releasing. You're picking a small demographic. Like, technically, Handnet was another one that we've talked about, and I think me and you both had predicted it in the top 5, like 5 weeks before it released nationally, because it was like described as a limited release, but other films were limited and they went off to 4,000 theaters. I don't know. It's an interesting dichotomy between like what is limited versus what's wide.
If you know of a definitive place to figure out how many theaters something is releasing to, please don't gatekeep that. Put it in the comments. Send us the link. We need to know how many theaters this thing's getting released to. I mean, the fact that they're, like you had said, no definitive place to even find out that number is crazy. Like, why are we keeping this under wraps? I mean, if you
Yeah.
know the answer to that, I listen to a few podcasts. I might even write in. It's starting to piss me off so much. Like, that's the whole point of that podcast is they dive deep into like stupid questions, basically. And
Yeah.
one of them would be, why can't you figure out how many theaters a movie is going to release to
Yeah.
on its debut?
Well, what is like doubly agitating is that like when you see, so like we've used Box Office Mojo for a while, and now we've added like Movie Insider, the IMDb, just straight up calendar and the numbers, right? Because we're trying super hard to make sure we're getting as many sources as we can to see everything coming out, and it's still almost impossible. When you look at Box Office Mojo, it will say limited or wide, and that is supposed to be cut and dry. If it's over 600 theaters, that should be wide. If it's under, it should be limited. But how many times did we see limited and it be wide, or vice versa? Yeah. It's like this should be cut and dry, but it's not. So that is a fascinating, that's like a problem that I didn't think, or I didn't even know existed until after we started doing this, because how are we supposed to know? How is anyone supposed to know? And it's what's doubly interesting about that, or triply, I guess, at that point. Don't you need to tell people it's going to your theater? Isn't that the whole point? Don't you need to say, hey, this is going to your local theater? Why? What? Anyway.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. The big guys are going to say in theaters only on this day.
Make it make sense.
Yeah.
Anywho, with that, now that we're done whining, we will give our predictions. I love after all that, we're like, yeah, it sucks.
All right.
Now let's do it. Anyway, Jake, I'll give you the option this time. Usually I force you to go. I volunteer you to go. Do you want me to go first?
No, because I'm confident.
Bro's claiming it.
I'm going to get 5 out of 5.
Make it happen. Let's see it.
I got GOAT. I got GOAT coming out in number 1. I think that thing is that thing's Zootopia level peak is what I'm betting. I'm betting this thing gonna be in there for a while. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I don't know nothing about basketball. This movie seems awesome. I mean, we got Spider-Man, like Miles Morales Spider-Man level graphics, like animation style, and then there was something else, wasn't it? Somebody else had collabed on this.
Well, it is Sony, so not just Sony makes. They make K-pop Demon Hunters. They made the Spider-Verse film, so it's that same. But I don't think it was any other besides like those two.
Maybe that's what it was. K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yeah. They were the same production house.
Yeah. So
it's Steph Curry who's a producer on it. Is probably also what you're thinking.
No, it was more so like the Into the Spider-Verse animation style and the writers or the directors of something similar that also boasted great talent. So that's why I'm like, this movie's gonna go hard. We're probably gonna see it at 1 next week. What do we got? What do we got? Let me check. Yep. I think that's what it's gonna be next week as well. How to Make a Killing is like, I don't need to get into what's coming out, but like that would probably be the only thing that could possibly. But this is a kids movie. This thing's gonna be top next week. And for number 2, for the plain and simple reason of it's not a kids movie, but it's gotten the level of marketing that's pissed people off. Wuthering Heights. Quotation marks, right, Ryan?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we'll get into that.
I think just the amount of like hate and Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie's just oddness. I don't know if it's weirder than on Ariana Grande and Cynthia.
Let's pause because we don't hate Elordi or Robbie. We hate the marketing for the film. It's not them that we hate. Whereas
I don't know,
a lot
they're
of people
weird too.
A lot of Emily kind of gives like an eye. She's like, I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't hate Elordi or Robbie. Whereas with Arrivo and Grande, I was like agitated. I was agitated with those two because they were doing it themselves. This one feels more like a purposeful marketing tactic, which I don't blame them for. Continue.
Yeah. Well, it was a level of like we mentioned it before. The Hunger Games just being told is like, this is what you have to do. I don't care if you're married.
Yeah.
You have to act this way on camera for interviews with this guy, even though you're married. And then this guy's like, okay.
Do you love him? Yeah.
I mean, if you're Jacob Elordi and you don't have a significant other, which I don't know if he does or not, I mean, I'll leave that for the tabloids. But it's kind of like you have to act like you're obsessed and infatuated with Margot Robbie. And as a fella, it'd be like, okay, sure, why not?
Literally, Aaron Paul in Breaking Bad, do not sell marijuana to my husband. But it's Jacob, act in love with Margot Robbie. Okay.
You don't have to like tell me to.
Yeah.
Fairly easy, but it is a little odd the way that they, because I'm going to get into it, but like the whole marketing, it doesn't feel real though. Like that's the odd part. Like that's not what somebody would do. That's not what somebody would do.
Yeah. Apparently, Jacob Elordi, he's very much not married, but he has reports indicate he is single following the end of his 3.5-year on and off again relationship with influencer Olivia Jade. So do with that what you will. Again, that is very tabloidy, but I was curious because would it be comedy if everyone's like, oh yeah, the whoever Margot Robbie's husband is like his wife? It's just this dude's been married the whole time and nobody's said anything. Can you imagine? But he's not, so it's not weird like that. But anyway, please continue.
Moving on from that, I think that's why it's going to be second. People are going to probably like either one, they follow it and they care about the story, or two, they're going to go hate watch it and be like, what are these guys doing? You know, could it possibly be that good? Where Margot Robbie showed it to 20 of her best friends and they wouldn't stop screaming.
They went feral for Jacob.
Went feral. So at 3, I've got Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, which is like a time travel comedy thriller or something like that, right? I don't have it in front of me.
Sam Rockwell is the lead, like trying to
is
go
this
back
one of the ones that'll give me a bunch of genres, or is it just action?
It is definitely a comedy as well. Sci-fi adventure is what I'm seeing on Google. Gore Verbinski is the director. He did something else recently as well. He did. Oh, apparently
it's an action adventure comedy sci-fi.
He did a bunch of the Pirates of the Caribbean, which that we'll talk about that later. He did Rango. So this is a guy. He's been around, and so please continue. I can talk about this one too.
I got it at 3 because the marketing for it, at least the commercials, I thoroughly enjoyed what I saw, and then I got Send Help being at number 1 this week. I'm going to drop it down to 4. And then there's something else coming out called Cold Storage, but I'm actually seeing that it's limited on Watch Mojo and it's wide on the numbers. So now I'm not happy about that. So I've got that at 5 just because it's got, you know who it's got, Ryan, right? Off the top of your head.
Halle Berry,
Liam
Chris
Neeson,
Hemsworth, and wait, Cold Storage. Oh, sorry,
Cold
I thought you were talking about Crime 101. That's my bad.
No,
that is
Liam Neeson,
Stranger Things. He's
Stranger Things guy.
Joe Carey. Yeah. Sorry, I thought you said Crime 101.
Georgina Campbell. So I don't know. It's got some names on it. That's why I put it at 5. People are gonna be like, Stranger Things. They're gonna go watch it.
And when I'm back to Chicago, it's that guy too. He's the guy that sings
same
that.
Guy.
Apparently, the band that he sings that with, it's DJO. I've been made aware recently. It's just Joe.
Yeah, it's like Django.
You just said the D.
Did I?
Yeah.
No.
We're going to move on past that. My top 5, we're going to move on past that as well. My top 5 include, and me and Jake actually have 3 of the same, so it's not going to take very long to get through this, which is why I'm so sorry to keep butting in, Jake, because I was agreeing with you a lot there. GOAT at 1, Wuthering Heights at 2. I didn't want to say this beforehand, because I didn't follow this, but every Sunday I get alerted by what the box office was by this guy on Screen Rant, right? It's a newsletter at the very end, which I never read in preparation for this. He does his next week. I just read down to that point and then I stop reading. But he gave a little spoiler because he said, obviously, Wuthering Heights is going to win next weekend. And I was like, no. So I am going GOAT as well because everything you said. Think about the powerhouse team behind it. Think about the kids today. They don't say Kobe and they shoot into the garbage can. They say Steph. Or at least one of them. Yeah, Steph or Curry, or what some of them now go Wemby. But it's like the idea is Victor Wembanyama.
No,
the idea is
anybody other than Kobe is
wrong, inherently.
Wrong.
But you got to remember, when we were kids, Kobe was what Steph is now, which is awful because Steph is in his 16th or 17th year, and Kobe was older when we were kids too. So anyway.
Yeah, nobody said James. I thought Kobe was the first one.
They said, no, they'd go LeBron. You never heard that?
No.
Yeah.
Kobe
Most definitely.
and then
everyone else. No. I've heard LeBron. Like I've heard that as well. Or like MJ. Anywho, Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I know who that is. I've never heard
Michael Jackson?
Say, MJ.
Michael Jackson? Can you imagine they go to shoot like the basketball and they go tee and they like shoot? No, wrong MJ, no. Anyway, no. I today
Magic Johnson.
Steph is a lot more. He's more in tune, like as naturally as things go with time, right? Like the new stars flood in and the kids grow up with that star. So I think that his name attached to it with his attachment to the new fans or the newer fans, even if he is a little bit older, with the powerhouse behind obviously the Spider-Verse films and K-pop Demon Hunters. Are you kidding me? I think that this film will pop off. We've seen it time and time again with these animation films. With Zootopia 2 is the obvious, most recent that we can point to. These family films, they dominate the box office. So, and then I think Wuthering Heights, I think there'll be a lot of hate watchers because I've seen a lot of I think Collider gave it like a 2 out of 10. Like they said it was just terrible. And I've seen a lot of people as well be like, yeah, Jacob Elordi's, his character's not white in the book. And Margot Robbie's character is supposed to be a teenager. So there's like a bunch of like just continuity errors. And then the director was like, there's parentheses around it because it's my version of the story. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh no, like, I don't know. There's just a lot of, and so it'll still be 2, but I think there'll be a lot more hate watchers. And so this one might kind of fall out after second or third week. Anyway, at third, and this is why I was going over this film and the certain stars in this film, because I thought you mentioned this earlier, but it's not even in your top 5, so I apologize. Crime 101 with Chris Hemsworth, Halle Berry, and it's got Barry Keoghan and one more, I think. But I think that this one will pop off. Mark Ruffalo is who I'm thinking of. This one I've seen a lot of marketing for, and I think it
Chris
will do
Hemsworth.
Well. Yeah.
Sorry, did you say that?
Yeah.
There's 4.
Yeah, Chris Hemsworth, Barry Keoghan, Halle Berry, Mark Ruffalo with a 4. So I think that this one will pop off. It's one of those that's like Hemsworth is like a nobody who's like a not like a nobody is in a down and out. He's like no one knows his name. Like he's so good at what he does, he steals things. Then Barry Keoghan sent after him because they know that Hemsworth is going to steal something, and Halle Berry somehow involved and is the love interest. And Mark Ruffalo, if you can imagine, is the cop that's chasing them. Mark Ruffalo loves to play a cop. From Zodiac to Task and now to Crime 101. The dude just loves, to be a detective. What?
The magic movies where the...
Oh, Now You See Me. Yeah. He's also a cop in there as well. What's up with that? He loves... I love the idea. Is like
he's a pretty good investigator. Like he plays... I enjoy him as an investigator.
His agent walks up and is like, so there's this guy that wants you to play a detective. He's like, I'll take it. Like instantly. Mine.
No question.
Dibs.
Well, it's going to be the Epstein documentary.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
Yeah. It's going to be... We'll talk about that later, too, because there's someone who's open about playing the guy. So maybe the guy chasing him down will be Mark Ruffalo as an FBI agent. Anyway, finishing fourth, or not finishing fourth, what I would predict to finish fourth. I have Send Help as well with Jake, and then Cold Storage. Actually, Jake, me and you have 4 of the 5 same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cold Storage is another one I've seen a lot of marketing for, and I've seen a lot of people say that like critics who've seen the early screenings say that it is very good. I've seen someone say that Liam Neeson gives his best over the phone in like monologue since Taken in this film, and it's supposed to be a comedy. And from another thing I've seen from early like screenings from critics were saying that Joe Carey like solidifies himself as a Hollywood like darling. Like he is like, this is like one of the films that will take him out of his like teenage character Stranger Things series into Hollywood stardom, and I look forward to seeing this because I think he's a fantastic actor. And that's our top 5. We have 4 of the 5 very similar going on. Anyway, we're running over a little bit on our segment, so let's go ahead and get into what Jimmy said very quickly.
Jimmy has got Wuthering Heights at 1, Goat at 2, swapping our 1s and 2s.
Wrong.
Right. And it is agreeing with Ryan with Crime 101 at 3 and Send Help at 4. And then it is putting Solo Mio at 5, leaving Cold Storage off. So it is going to be a toss up. Like, I don't know if the past weeks I've felt like this is everybody's got kind of an equal chance at it. Like Ryan has said it before, but I haven't felt this way. I'm looking at it right now. I don't think it's going to get 1 and 2. Is there necessarily a chance? I don't know, but I think 3 through 5, yeah. And then Emily says she feels like Jimmy's going to be really close. She thinks Wuthering Heights going to be at 1. I don't think so. But we'll see next week. I mean, it really is going to be a toss up. It could be.
Yeah, and what's fascinating too, last thing like we'll say about our predictions, this is one of those weeks, it's a crapshoot. Like I was looking at how many releases, how many things could be like Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. I wanted so badly to put in my top 5, but I just didn't feel comfortable. Solo Mio, if it has a good second week with good, like if it has a great word of mouth advertising after the first week, it could go up. We've seen that happen. So Solo Mio could finish 5th. There's so many good movies that are just kind of coming out and so many good ones that just came out this past weekend that like, who knows? This is going to be and with how close all of us predicted, yeah, it's going to be fun. One last thing before I get out of this segment, because I forgot about it. I got talking about the Super Bowl and I forgot one thing, and it's a crime and we must do it before we get out of segment 1. What are we drinking? We have to do it. We gotta share with the audience. So let's do our quick micro segment. What are we drinking? And then let's get out of segment 1. We answer the age-old question for those sitting at home. What are we drinking? What's getting us through the afternoon? I will bring Emily from Beyond the Curtain to join us front center stage. And tell us, what are you drinking?
Thanks for asking, Ryan. So glad to be a part of this delayed segment. My drink is gone, but it was a very delicious matcha with a honey drizzle lining the cup. Probably the same as the last 2 weeks. And then my lovely mother brought me a little sandwich and chips and a Diet Coke to go along with it that I've also finished. Gee.
Moundy Kickstart. Trucker
No
diet.
probiotics this week?
No. Ran out. Ain't been to the store.
Aw. Okay,
We stocked
Ryan.
up to this.
Cat mug with coffee. You can kind of see it, I think. Yeah. You saw it. Yeah, cat mug. This was a gift.
No black tea this week?
No, but black coffee.
Close enough.
Close enough. We're still in character. And that has been What Are We Drinking? Thank you for joining us, Emily. And on top of that, that has been our first segment. So coming up after the break, while you're here, while you pressed on our video, you saw the thumbnail.
45 minutes later.
44 minutes later. Not 45. We break down season 2 of Amazon MGM's Fallout. Coming up next. Welcome back to Beyond the Screen. You've made it to segment 2, which is always our major news segment. So now we always do reviews a certain way where we're still trying to figure out our flow and our kind of our format. But usually we do a kind of a spoiler-free review and then a spoiler-filled, so we can give you kind of a synopsis of like the like again, a spoiler-free synopsis of what happened, and then we give you spoiler warning. We're not going to do that here because there's so much story to cover. It is almost impossible to give a lead in to all the stories without spoiling something. So if you haven't seen Fallout Season 2, why are you here? I'm just kidding. Press off and come back after you've watched it, or go to the third segment, which will probably be about an hour 20 or so. We thank you for being here, but we don't want to spoil it for you if you are interested in watching. I am so excited for this because this is a perfect demographic to review this series, especially season 2. You have one, I'm a very casual Fallout fan. I didn't really grow up playing. I did grow up playing Bethesda games, but I think as we talked, I've grown up playing Skyrim. So I didn't really get into the Fallout franchise. I know a very basic, like, baseline level of the series, and it was fun what I played of it, but I'm not like a diehard mega fan. Jake, while not a mega fan, Jake is a fan. Jake is beyond the basic. Jake is beyond the casual. Jake is a certified legitimate fan who knows a lot more than I do. So you have the perfect demographic of legit fan and casual. And so I know more. Like, watching the series, I can give you kind of my breakdown, and Jake can come in with the lore and the actual facts about what's going on. So you get kind of the best of both worlds here, as Hannah Montana once said. So with that in
I'm
mind,
what you call a gamer.
yeah.
It's not like I'm reading every terminal or computer or piece of paper or card that I come across, but I've played Fallout 3, Fallout 4. I will play New Vegas if they drop the remaster, but I've seen gameplay, and I've read extensively through like lore and several TikTok like deep dives, YouTube deep dives. So like I understand. Probably like Ryan said, like I am the generic gamer of the Fallout franchise, and not just someone who's like seen the TV show. So, not to say that you can see the TV show and get enough. I don't want to discount anybody who's just seen that, but play the games; they're awesome.
Yeah, I played a little bit of 4, and me and my friends tried to get into 76, but that's a rough go. Yeah, it's a rough go.
No.
And so
That's why I'm excited for New Vegas. People say that one's the best.
yeah, so I highly look forward to the remasters, but maybe we'll do a beyond the screen special of the game after it comes out. Maybe we'll review the game and talk about the actual source material. However, we're here to talk about season 2, which is a rough adaptation of New Vegas. And we say rough because it comes 15 years after the events of New Vegas, or any of the Fallouts in that matter. So we'll get back to that timeline. Jake has a much more thorough description and a much more deep dive into the timeline. We'll get there in just a second. Let's go over a layout heading into season 2. So you might remember some of this if you've watched all of season 1. Obviously, you're here. You've probably seen all of season 2, but let's go back and recap some of the story a bit. So, layout of the land. Hank McClane has made his way into a massive Vault-Tec bunker hidden under Las Vegas. There, he works to miniaturize a Robco creation, a device that, once placed into the neck of its victim, allows for total brainwashing and control in hopes to appease and be taken in by the Enclave. So that is Hank hoping to appease and be taken in by the Enclave. And now those are the scientists from season 1 that it's later revealed is over 200 years old, and they stole. So the guy with the glasses from season 1, the head that they had to bring to Moldaver and the new California Republic, that was the Enclave that he stole that from, the one who couldn't handle the dogs being killed and whatnot. So, Jake, that's a quick description of who the Enclave is in terms of we've seen them before for those who haven't played the game but watched the show. Who or what is the Enclave?
So the Enclave is basically the American government, and their goal to win the resource war, or the Great War between China and like NATO, like quickly disbanded once oil ran out, and so basically over oil. And so the way that they saw to win the war is to nuke the entire planet, wait out the fallout, and like reclaim the entire world and like rule the world. Like the United States government would just rule the entire world, rule or govern or whatever. And plan B was to go colonize another planet if they found that the world was uninhabitable, or plan A just didn't work out. They couldn't take over the world. because I mean, as you see in Fallout, there's so many different factions, and we're only in the United States. There's no telling what other lands, like there's like Fallout lore goes deep where like the UK is doing stuff.
Yeah.
And so like we don't even talk about like what's going on in Africa or what's going on in India, or, like there's if there's so much is happening and there's so many games just based in the United States, and there's even I think secondly like Star Wars Legends, or there's lore in the sense of like over in the UK. So Plan A is not going to work out for the Enclave unless they can get a handle on it. And as you can tell from the first two seasons, if you never played any of the games, they're not going to get a handle on it. Like, come
Right.
on, you got ghouls and death claws and people upon troves of people and factions. Like, unless they do something absolutely nuts, like more nuts than brainwashing. But anyway, so that's why the vaults were created. So Vault Tech is a front, or basically a corporation that they really are tied in close to do experiments
Yep.
for space travel. So every vault was either a control group or an experiment on if a water chip broke, or what isolation does, or certain like radiation does to people, because space radiation is a big thing. And basically it's all the data from these vaults are sent from the overseer's terminal to the Enclave to house, study, and collect data before they go on their trip to colonize another planet.
Yeah.
Using what else I found, like cloning, I mean, amongst many different things, cryogenics, just for their space travel. So
And we will talk more about like some of those specifics, because there's one that's really relevant to our story, and we'll get there near the end of our kind of our recap. But something too that you had talked about that I'd love to hear more about is that, like you said, the US government, it's more of a shadow government above the US government, made up of those various corporations, which include Robco, which is Robert House, which Fallout fans will recognize.
no, he was not involved.
Well, Robco was not. Okay.
No, because Robert House would have known who the Enclave was.
Oh, that's a good point. Yes. But shadow government made up of these corporations above.
A lot of corporations, the figurehead is the US president. Like the whole point is democracy, and it's a level of like I don't know, democracy in United States. Like I believe them to be American companies that came together and formed this shadow government enclave.
I thought that was an important distinction that we had discussed prior to recording, and I wanted to make sure that was clear. Is that while yes, U.S. government, not U.S. government, technically the enclave is a shadow above them, headed by the president, but it's made up of these mega corporations who make money off of the end of the world, essentially, which is a big reason why Vault Tech is a thing. So, anyway, let's get on with some of these other characters too, because if you remember the end of season 1, the Ghoul and Lucy were hot on the trail of Hank. As Cooper Howard or the Ghoul said, it's easier to track a stuck pig than it is to ask it where it's going. So that's exactly what they did, and that's what led them to Vegas. So the reason that they're searching, they have two different reasons, but they're working together, at least in the beginning. You learn there's a different reason why later. But the Ghoul is searching for his family, who he believes might be under Vegas in the same vault that McClane is currently residing in, because, shocker, Hank gets to Vegas and he gets in this massive vault that the two are looking for. And Lucy is in search of justice following the events of the first season. She makes it very clear when the Ghoul asks her, because they have this conversation about, like, are you going to keep shooting people in the shoulders and in the knees, or are you going to kill them? He directly asks Lucy, what are you going to do with your dad? Because obviously, if you remember, Hank is Lucy's dad. Are you going to kill him, or what are you going to do with him? And she says, I'm going to take him back to Vault 33, and there's going to be justice. And he laughs at her. And we learn that there's probably a reason why later, but that's their goals heading into the season. Elsewhere, Maximus, Lucy's love interest, has officially been knighted by the Brotherhood of Steel, becoming a major player for Quintus, who's the leader of that faction, after helping defeat the New California Republic and obtaining Cold Fusion, or the Relic, as they describe. Following this, Quintus continues to use Max and the Relic as he attempts to unite the Western factions of the Brotherhood under his rule to stage a coup to overthrow the Commonwealth faction in the East, as they feel they've been treated unfairly. And lastly, kind of one of our last big story arcs here, is Norm McClane, so Lucy's brother, who remains trapped in Vault 31 following the events of Season 1, with the brain of Bud Askins, who tries to convince the curious son to step into his father's cryo chamber to help him to keep him from causing more hiccups in their plan, whatever that may be, because we know, again, more details about what that plan is, but by the time the season comes to an end, we don't really know exactly what that is. So there's some hints here and there, which we'll get into that later. So Jake, there's a lot of storylines going into the season. What about the season were you looking forward to the most whenever you started watching, and like which one was the most satisfying?
It was probably the aspect that we would see Robert House. When New Vegas was teased at the very end, it was like, oh my gosh, yes, let's figure out, like, because up until the end of season 1, we were in uncharted territory. We didn't know really where we were, where these vaults were. Or maybe we knew where they were, but we hadn't been there in the games. Yeah, we haven't been there in the games. So, or at least those vaults. So it's awesome to like go to a spot that we already knew from the games. And because the prospect of figuring out what the actual storyline was, because that's what they've been waiting on Bethesda and Amazon to actually nail down and say, this is the definitive choice that the courier, which is the main character of New Vegas, made. And we still didn't get that, but we saw New Vegas and it was awesome and stuff like that. So that's what I was probably most excited about, is Robert House and seeing New Vegas on the screen.
I'm so happy you said that, because what I love most about it, now again, someone who's super casual with it, like I knew who Robert House was, and I like as a villain anyway, because he's so infamous. That the head on the screen is so infamous, you know who he is, right? So it's like I knew who Robert House was, and I knew New Vegas is like the definitive Fallout. But something that you said that really interested me as a super casual fan who was interested in the show was that they didn't make a definitive decision. They allowed the characters or the players, their decisions hold. So whatever your canon is true. Like there's no, because the way Robert is in Fallout, the series, makes sense regardless of what outcome you had in New Vegas. The fact that he's there, it doesn't take away from, and it doesn't make a definitive choice, which is so beautiful about it. Which is why, for me, again, as someone who wants to go and play the games now because the series is so good, for someone who knows only so much and is super baseline, it's cool that I can still go back and still have that newness to the series and can still enjoy it and can still make my own decisions without there feeling like there's pressure to pick one way or the other. A game that, Jake, you watched me play and you actually made fun of me for this, is Dispatch. There is a pressure to go a certain way with certain love interests or with certain way you use characters. And it's like, mind you, Jake was clowning on me saying that I was making all the wrong decisions. I was a true hero with Robert, and I did better at the end of the series than 80% of other players. So like I was still doing well, and I was still made fun of for some of my decisions. But was, again, like, and I say that half like just being sarcastic, but the idea is this show doesn't put that pressure on the games. It allows the games to still hold their own 2 feet. So if you ask me, like my favorite storyline, I could kind of like cheap out and say the whole thing. I was really interested to see how Norm and Bud Askins, because that was where my fascination was like the greater conspiracy with Vault Tech, which they answered, but they didn't answer, right? Like we know the Enclave, we get a bigger picture of it so much farther beyond any of these characters, but we don't know what's happening yet. And we just know that it's this massive master plan. So I was very interested to see what Norm, and sadly Norm's arc was kind of not
lackluster.
It was very short. It was very quick. And the thing is, it does take the 8 episodes or 7 episodes of the 8 to get over it. But it's like every time he's on screen, it's very quick. Like whatever he's doing is done. And then they move on to what they have deemed as more important, which was like Lucy and the Ghoul or Max. Even Maximus's was kind of quick. But anyway, there was obviously like an A, B, and C tier. And it was A, the Ghoul and Lucy with Hank. B was Maximus and Thaddeus. And C was Norm. But unfortunately, the one I looked forward to the most was the C, was Norm and Bud in Vault 31. Something else too that we didn't talk about that we probably should is you mentioned broken water chips. Vault 33, they heading into this season, due to the raid from season 1, they're dealing with a broken chip, and they got
the raid, sure,
right. But that's what they're saying it was.
Yeah, it could have been just. That's how it was.
A test, yeah.
Yeah.
So They had 2 months of water, and as the season gets rolling, they express, or someone to overseer Betty it's expressed very quickly in the series that, or in the second season, that they're running through their water at an alarming rate. And that is, we'll get to the resolutions here in a second. But is there anything else you want to talk about the storylines going into the season before we will kind of go through and say how things panned out after this point. So this really is like, if you've not been spoiled yet, but this is kind of your last warning if you want to watch the show.
Steph is a crazy turn of events. Am I wrong?
Oh, dude, nuts. Yeah.
Nuts. The eye patch lady, if y'all don't know.
Yeah, if you are still having a tough time remembering her, the fork in the eye, that is her, the blonde. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, her conviction to surviving goes much farther than just getting a fork in the eye and wearing an eye patch. And
she might be the strongest character in the entire show. Just
with the knowledge or what do you call it, like not ingenuity or
the foresight even.
Yeah, or just the will to do anything it takes to survive.
Yeah.
So, and I won't spoil where she comes from, but I can't believe it.
We might, if it comes up in conversation, but that is one that we probably can. Yeah. We might be able to avoid that, but depending on how important it is later, because we'll see where the conversation goes, because that's not necessarily one of our outcomes or resolutions. But anyway, let's get on to the resolutions.
Should be, though. I'll mention it.
Yeah, okay. Let's get on to the resolutions of some of our storylines here. Hank develops and distributes his miniaturized mind-controlling device. Remember, we said earlier it was developed by Robco and Robert House. Originally, we see flashbacks early in the season from back in the 60s before everything went to hell and the bombs dropped. Robert House was trying to control people with this device in the back of their necks. When the series started, or the season started, it was about this big. It was huge. And he's trying to go out and test and figure it out. Vault-Tec captures that device, and Hank, in the present, where the story's taking place, successfully miniaturizes and develops and successfully creates this mind-controlling device, citing at the end of the season that no one will know who's under control and who's not. The Ghoul, or Cooper Howard, learns his family is in fact alive, though not in Vegas, and gives the cold fusion to Robert House, of which he got by way of Maximus and Thaddeus after they stole it from the Brotherhood / the Commonwealth. Maximus and Thaddeus, with assistance from a finally unified NCR, we see the whole series, or the whole season, the new California Republic, they look dead. They look dead in the water. For a long time, you see maybe 2 or 3 of them, and they've been hiding out, waiting, or just at this outpost forever. They're just outside of Vegas. I don't know exactly the specifics of where this outpost is, but these 2 or 3 NCR soldiers have been waiting for backup for forever. And there's even a statement made by the Ghoul that's like, they're not coming. Like, I've seen what was remaining of like the town nearby. Remember, that was the war between the Brotherhood and the NCR, where the NCR lost. There's no one coming. They do. They show up, and they show up in force in Vegas. So they help, again, Maximus and Thaddeus after they defect from the Brotherhood, which Thaddeus had already defected because he's now a ghoul, which we saw at the end of season 1. They free Vegas from a coven of death claws, but not before starting a civil war between the various factions of the Brotherhood and the Commonwealth after said theft of the cold fusion diode. So to clarify, when Max and Thaddeus stole the cold fusion, the relic, they were in the middle of a, how would you phrase that? Quintus was trying to unify the Western factions, as we had said before, and the Commonwealth got wind of it and was trying to convince Max to steal the diode and give it to the Commonwealth, or there'd be a war. And Max stole it. So... Yep.
And then all the factions
started beating up on each other. Yeah. So there's an inner civil war going on when we last see the Brotherhood of Steel. So going back even further, remember those death claws, that coven of death claws that we said were just randomly in Vegas? Keeping, what was it, Freeside was the specific side? They were inhabiting Freeside, which just happens to be where Robert House was. Yeah, so Robert House...
was the other side. So Freeside was where they were living. The death claws were in New Vegas.
Yes.
Like a separate portion. Freeside because they were free.
Yes, that's right. Yes, they were opposite of Freeside. Happens to be right where Robert House was, or Robert House wasn't because of the events of the game. Robert House, he's back. He admits to the Ghoul that they were sent to Vegas intentionally by the Enclave to protect the vault beneath New Vegas. Hank, as described by House, is an, quote, acolyte of the Enclave. As we said earlier, not only is he an Enclave, he's trying to get in their good graces so they will take him in. We think the Death Claws were sent right after the events of the game New Vegas because they don't necessarily say. We know Hank somehow gets into the bunker underneath the Vegas, right? But there is it had to have been like a dozen or more Death Claws outside of the literal building that Rob Coe was in Vegas. So we think, based on the wiki and based off of Jake's knowledge especially, that they were planted there right after the events of New Vegas when Robert House falls. So you might be asking, how does House come back? Well, I think I say it a little bit later, but I'm going to make sure that I say it now. The Ghoul, or Cooper Howard, gives the relic or the cold fusion to Robert House, and which we see earlier in the season before when we see the Cooper Howard story arc. House tried to convince Cooper early before the bombs dropped to give him the relic, and he didn't make that mistake twice. The second he came into contact with it in the modern day, 200 years later, he immediately gives it to where he saw the machine that House had to synthesize it or to utilize cold fusion. He puts it in there, and alas, wakes up Robert House. So he's back. Anyway, where was I? Let's get back here. Okay, so anyway, the Death Claws were sent there by the Enclave more than likely 15 years prior. And more than likely, it was probably 1 or 2, maybe 3 that were sent there, and they procreated and made more. And my favorite, what we're about to talk about, moving on from Vegas, or from, I should specifically say, moving on from what we saw in Vegas, because this is at the very end of the season. The Kaiser Legion, led by Macaulay Culkin, marches on New Vegas to destroy the NCR and the city.
Take the city back. But yeah, destroy
my
it.
favorite line, this is my favorite arc because it's so silly. When Lucy stumbles upon the Legion and Macaulay Culkin, they're in a Cold War, which I want to talk about the Cold War versus actual war concept later. But Kaiser, the Legion, they're in 2 different camps, and it's funny because you could tell they were obviously one camp, and they just dug this big hill in the center, and they put their old leader on top, who wrote a note as to who his successor was. And the reason he's on top is because neither side wanted to read the note because each side had one leader that they were behind. Split evenly down the middle, 50-50. Anyone who tried to jump up and read the note got shot or were killed instantly. So you had this hilarious standoff that Lucy gets captured in and the Ghoul saves her. But how he saves her is he starts a civil war by blowing up like a keg of gunpowder. And obviously the side that gets decimated by the explosion thinks the other side did it. And thus they started fighting. Turns out there was no successor because the dead Kaiser, it's Caesar, but they can't pronounce it, so they call it Kaiser over the 200 years. He said the Legion dies with me. I am the Kaiser, blah, 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 blah. So what does Macaulay Culkin do? He eats the note. He stabs the only witness near him because he pulls this body in the middle of their fighting, so no one knows. And he just puts the crown on his head, and he said, I was the guy. And that just stops it. That stops the war, and everyone's like, he's got to be telling the truth. And then they march on Vegas, thus starting another war. Now, if you're keeping track, there's a civil war between the Brotherhood and the Commonwealth, and now there's a war on Vegas between the Kaiser's Legion and the NCR. Moving on. If you thought there was one hilariously convenient outcome to a conflict, wait till you hear this one. If you remember or are unfamiliar with this one. Let's get back to Norm. We finally see him fight his way out of Vault 31 after literally trashing Bud. Remember, Bud was a brain in a little rolling like RC car. He picked him up and he threw him in the garbage can. I guess he killed him because it didn't necessarily say, but he died.
Yeah.
And he dethaws the rest of the Vault 31ers who are, as Jake, because we were going back and forth with some of the language here. These people are very much, they are in the know of the Enclave. They're in the know of the phases. Some are.
Some are Vault Tech just employees or assistants to the bigwigs. Some others are closer to their bosses and understood of the phase 2 of the vaults that are in and knew of plans. Whether or not they necessarily knew they were Enclave, maybe not. And I know I probably said that in this script, but I'm thinking about it and I was like, either they don't know about the Enclave and they just know about phase 2, or maybe they know about the Enclave and they're prep. But there are some that do know. Or
Yes.
there, at the very least, there's one that will rally all of the assistants.
Yes. And it's important. I think that's an important distinction too. So the idea is that there are some who are familiar with the idea that there's a bigger picture and that there's a plan that they have to follow. And
Mhm.
Norm, being born 200 years after these people thawed, right? Or they froze, they went into cryogenics. He's not necessarily one who wants to go along with, nor does he even know about the plan. But
Mhm.
upon thawing these people, he tricks them into saying he's some super genetic manager, bred after 200 years of Vault Tech's planning, and that he is now their overseer. He's the person to listen to, and he knows Bud's plan. So using that in there, that kind of that facade, he and the rest of the Vault 31ers get out of the vault, and they pop out on the Santa Monica Pier. And this is the first time Norm has been outside. So he takes a moment, but the rest of them, they've been asleep. They feel like they've been asleep for a week. In fact, Claudia, who we'll talk about in a minute, even says, I took that bridge last week. And they're talking about a massive highway in LA.
She's only been with Vault Tech for
Yeah.
a week or so.
Yeah. So she and a few others are very hit by how the 200 years have affected the planet, because for them, it was just a slumber. It was just a sleep, and now everything's decimated. But anyway, after making their way towards Vault-Tech's LA headquarters, suspicions arise amongst the more knowledgeable, and the way we phrased it here is enclave aligned, but those who know the more advancements of the plan, right? The Vault 31ers who suspect him, they kind of have an idea after Norm isn't privy or isn't necessarily forthcoming with some of the plans, right? He kind of allows those who know to direct, and that's when the suspicions start to come around, because management wouldn't allow a subordinate to lead the way, kind of deal, right? That's not protocol. But anyway, upon scouting this LA headquarters, Norm uncovers a piece of information about his home, Vault 33, known as the Forced Evolutionary Virus, or FEV. Norm is immediately captured by the rest of the Vault 31ers, not before, again, finding a love interest in Claudia, who we talked about before. Shocking, they're getting along. The most recent Vault Tech employee in the cryogenic chamber falls in love with Norm because they both are like, this isn't cool. But anyway, Norm reads about FEV and then is immediately sentenced to death because the suspicious characters surrounding him from Vault 31. So Jake, what is the Forced Evolutionary Virus?
Oh man. It was something created by either Vault Tech or the Enclave. I do not actually know the reason why it is. There are many different like outcomes to exposure to the FEV. Like you've got the super mutants that we've seen that kidnap the ghoul, which I think we'll talk about a little later. And in the games, you know them well, super mutants, at least in Fallout 4. But they also can create different characters. Like there's a herald who's, I believe he's a tree, as well as a ghoul. There's also, oh, I forget their name now, like a snallygaster or something like that. And then there's another creature, but it's people exposed to this FEV or forced to be exposed to this forced evolutionary virus that just, it's like irradiates them or just changes their chemical makeup, and they become mutated. And the Brotherhood of Steel deems anything that was exposed to this or anything ghoulish or anything like that as a abomination and must be cleansed and must be killed. The Enclave shares the same.
Which the only reason I'm going to hop in here is because that's important distinction and important note in a pin we should put, because that's why Max leaves. Because not only is his friend Thaddeus, who he grew up with in the Brotherhood, now a ghoul, which you saw how that happened at the end of the season.
Is he though?
Well, we're discovering he might not be, but you know what I'm saying. He thinks he's a ghoul, and someone from the Commonwealth was going to kill a bunch of ghoul children, and whenever that's ousted from Max towards Quintus, that is what starts the whole stealing of the relic and what became the war between the factions. So please continue, but I wanted to make sure that was out there because that's such an important note into Maximus's character.
I'm gonna look up real quick, see what it says. It was created by West Tech before the Great War, initially designed as a pan-immunity project to cure the new plague. So there was a plague going on that was ravaging the United States as well during the Great War. I neglected to mention that. It was intended to alter human DNA to make soldiers immune to disease, radiation, and pain, but was quickly weaponized by the U.S. military to create super soldiers, causing mass mutations into super mutants. Post-war use, the Enclave sought to use modified FEV for population control, while the Master used it to create a new unified race of super mutants. So the Master is a character in other Fallout games that it's like, I don't know how to describe it. The final boss, basically, of some of those, or one of the bosses of the games that you can choose whether or not to kill or keep alive or something like that.
Yeah, and I'm so happy you mentioned. I don't mean to keep hopping in here, but the more like the things you bring up, it ties in with events in the show that are so important. I think the coolest aspect that I wasn't anticipating came with Cooper Howard, which we'll talk more about him later. But he fought in the Great War with China
in Alaska.
Yeah, in Alaska.
In the Alaska front.
Which was so sick because you see him, you see what that war was like. You see like the depravity of it with what it looked like and why there was a what is it? They had a race for supplies or what did they say? They didn't say supplies, but they called it something. Resources, a resource war.
Mm-hmm.
You see kind of what led to the resource war and you see the bloodshed and how it's really cool and how like the armor that the Brotherhood of Steel use as like that's literally their whole niche. You see how it became to be. It was a war tactic. It was literally like a walking tank. And so that was such a cool aspect. And going back to FEV, which takes us back to Norm, and we'll finish out his kind of arc. We've seen it, FEV, in action during this season. We see it, and it's revealed that there was some genetic testing on vault dwellers in other vaults. And we see that through Lucy and the Ghoul as they're visiting other, like one vault which was Vault 24, which is a Easter egg to the game, which was behind the drive-in movie theater. They get in there because Hank McClane in the very beginning of the season, we see him, he went into this vault and the Ghoul and Lucy went in, not after him, but following his exit already because they're trying to figure out why he even went in there. And it, not just are they forcing this virus upon people to see what they turn into, to see how they can become the next evolution in humanity, but they're brainwashing Russians and making them believe they're human. And so it's like, or human, making them believe they're American. Sorry, talk about humans evolving. But you know what I'm saying. So it's like, it is fascinating to see all these different things. And you see FEV in action in these other vaults too, what was the vault that they, in season 1, that they ended up dropping into, Max and Lucy? That was another one that was probably also FEV that we just thought was radiation. The dude who the overseer had one eye. He was a Cyclops. Do you remember that?
No.
That I know it was a thing. I cannot quite remember, but that was Vault. It wasn't 19. But it was something of the same of it was something like that. If Jake finds it here soon, they were in the bottom of a hospital. They went into a hospital and the door, like a trap door opened in season 1, and Lucy and Max fell through. And they fell.
Vault 4?
Was it Vault 4? I think that's right. It was Vault 4. So we see kind of what the aftermath of some of the FEV. But anyway, from all the way back in season 1.
I'm learning.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Conduct 5-year radiation mutation experiments on human subjects. The test subjects revolted, killing the scientists, and the descendants of the survivors took over and now govern the vault. Sure. Oh, yeah, yes. Yep, I remember now. Bunch of naked people in a Cyclops.
Yes. Anyway, let's go back to Norm. So remember, he was captured after reading about FEV and Phase 2 and yada, 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 sentenced to death. Norm's arc ends. So right as they get into, back at the beginning, when they get into the LA headquarters before Norm's capture, they run into a character we saw in season 1 who helped Lucy at the very beginning with some weapons and pointed her on her way. She's back and she warns them, very Chekhovian-like, right? Like Chekhov's gun. They say, hey, or Chekhovian, excuse me. They're like, hey, don't go in the elevator shaft. That's my roach farm. And they don't speak of it again. Well, those roaches are rad roaches. And if you played the game, you know how big those things are and how they will kill you just for existing. So after a struggle breaks out, when they capture Norm, they knock him out, they tie him up, then they're carrying him down, and they're like, there's going to be a trial, but you know they're just going to kill him. Claudia jumps on the back of, and I cannot remember the character's name, but the main or antagonist in Vault 31, the one who is perpetuating this idea to the rest of the Vault Dwellers that are up in this LA HQ. She gets thrown off, and she lands on the elevator button, which why it still works is beyond me. But it opens. The shaft opens, and one character's like, I guess they're not that big after all. And immediately a rad roach jumps on her and cuts her neck open and yada, yada, yada. So then all hell breaks loose. And this is where I was talking about convenient storytelling kind of comes into play, right? It was the Legion and them all just being like, oh yeah, Macaulay Culkin must be the guy because he read the note. Here's the second and the worst one. The rad roaches attack all of the vault, and you got Norm running towards the door because all of the vault dwellers who survived the initial surge of rad roaches out of the elevator shaft, they run into this room a little bit away from the elevators, and Norm is the last one there, and he's pushed out naturally, right? But because he bought time for the rad roaches chasing him, they go for the massive population in this room. And so Norm is sitting underneath. He jumps under this table, and you see the door in the background, and you see a lady banging on the door because the door's shut after all these rad roaches jumped in there, again, conveniently. And you see blood splatter on the window, and then they cut away. And you're like, and remember, now, mind you, everyone else from Vault 31 outside of Norm was in that room, including Claudia. So me and Jake talked about this before the episode. When that door shut and you saw the blood splatter and all of the rad roaches were in there, me and him kind of had the same thought. We didn't watch it together, but we had the same thought. I was like, well, she's dead. Like, they're going to town. So then it cuts away and it goes to some of the other stories, and this is literally the last thing we see of Norm. He opens the door, and he walks in, and you have this dolly shot, backtracking, right? And Norm's walking in, and you see these dead roaches and these dead people everywhere, blood everywhere. But you see one person moving, stuttering under a roach. The roach has a screwdriver protruding from its skull. It's Claudia. She survived? Conveniently, yeah. She was the one person in that room to not die. And the last thing you see are the two exiting Vault Tech going God knows where. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the resolutions of the major story arcs. That's like the finale. So we have some major discoveries that were within these story arcs we'll go over, but I wanted to point out how convenient and how, like, not shocking, but like it felt like they ran out of time and they just needed to get the story on with. Jake, you made a good point, if you remember it, why maybe she was in the room, because I had made the point that, say, the elevator busts open and she turns back, because there was a point when everyone else was running towards that door, and Norm was stuck on the ground with a table holding off some rad roaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was a point where she could have turned around and been like, no, Norm, and like help him out, and they both be outside the room, and it'd be more convenient. She could have gotten like all these different things could have happened. Why do you think they left her in the room and like she survived?
Oh, well, to push the story ahead, like somebody who was writing needed her to be carried out by Norm. That's just going to be the hardship that we see in season 3 of Norm. But to get Claudia hurt, the best way I guess they sought to do that was to put her in the room with the rad roaches. I just found it quite odd to have a room full of rad roaches, a room full of people who obviously don't know how to deal with them, and then all of a sudden everybody's dead but Claudia. Like, you lead me to believe that each person got their own rad roach, and the rad roach and the person, all of them tied. Basically,
they traded. Every last one of them.
Every one of them traded,
except for Claudia.
Claudia survived, but she killed the one that was on her. Like, I find it very hard to believe, and you could have possibly knocked her out at some point, and I don't know. Like, I think there was other items that or other ways you could have hurt Claudia without putting her into the death room. And then magically, like, I would have preferred Norm to not have opened that room again because the rad roaches would still be in there feasting, and now have Claudia get hurt. Or like, even if Claudia was like being attacked or scratched, or and then Norm beat her with the desk that he was using to fight off that one, and
I'm so happy you mentioned that.
you know,
I'm so happy you mentioned that because you literally see Norm pick up like a table or like an end table and beat one off of another person who had fallen before he gets to the door and is shoved back out. That could have easily have been Claudia after she stops to help him because he is in a precarious position right before. That's why he's lagging behind.
Yeah.
And it would have made so much more sense if some of the rad roaches survived. They're stuck in that room with Claudia already injured because she fell trying to get to the door after she tried to help Norm, and Norm saved her. And that's why, and then, again, the door never opens. That would make so much more sense. And she's still hurt, and they all survive. And those vault dwellers who didn't know how to deal with the rad roaches, they all die, and some of the rad roaches survive. That would have made a lot more sense. But no, they did not choose that route. That was just a very odd creative decision on the story. I mean, it's not like a make or break or anything, but it was like very head scratching. Like, why that way? But anyway, that's how it ends is she somehow survives and Norm opens the door and saves her. Let's go back over some major discoveries that we got from this season. So again, Robco's mind control device and Vault-Tec's stealing of said device, Vault-Tec's human tests and a mysterious plan that is currently progressing into phase 2 going into season 3, Vault 31 and the inhabitants that Norm dethaws.
Phase 2.
Yeah.
The human test of Vault 33 is the FEV virus that Norm had uncovered and is put in motion by a cornered Steph at the end of the season, where she contacts the Enclave and says initiate phase 2, which is the releasing of the virus.
Yes. So, which is interesting. Are they already infected and they're just going forward, or are they're going to be infected?
They're going to be, I would say. Interesting.
So, yes, progressing into phase 2, we don't know much more than that, but there's going to be an infection released into the vaults. Let's see here. Vault 31 and the inhabitants that Norm dethaws, a fun fact, and this is, Jake, you can speak more to this. That faction and that vault, that is the longest lasting active branch of Vault-Tec, according to the Fallout Wiki, outside of the Enclave itself. All the other vaults have been raided. They collapsed. It's still Vault 31, 32, and 33. They're one of the last ones surviving. I mean, Vault 4 is one of the other ones, but they're in a different situation.
Yeah, they're not affiliated with Vault-Tec anymore.
Yes.
These are like actual Vault-Tec employees carrying out Vault-Tec operations for the Enclave.
Yes.
But like they're the last ones of all of the storylines of all the games. This TV series is the longest, like establishes the longest lasting Vault-Tec people.
So, continuing with our major discoveries, we have new and very dangerous factions, including the Macaulay Culkin-led Kaisar's Legion and a mysterious mutant group that tries to recruit the Ghoul, which we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Speaking of the Ghoul, nothing is more important than the discoveries made through his Cooper Howard flashbacks, which I talked a little bit about it earlier. In these, we learn that the Ghoul has connections to literally every major character in the modern day story arc, all the way to every major character in season 1 and in season 2. Those include Hank McClane, Steph from Vault 32, who is now the overseer of 33, who is now the overseer of 32, and including Robert House, Moldaver, who we thought was the main villain from season 1, and more. Every major character, the Ghoul, when he was Cooper Howard before the bombs dropped, has an affiliation with or worked with in pre-bombs dropping. Of these, however, none are more important than the revelation of his involvement in the dropping of the bombs themselves. Howard stole the cold fusion from Vault-Tec over 200 years prior, who was going to trade the infinite power source to Robert House for the very bombs that were soon to drop. At least that was the theory. That was kind of what was being perpetuated by those back then, right? House would claim that that's not necessarily, he's not the one who drops the bomb. He doesn't know where they're coming from. That's like one of the few things he can't deduce because he's a master calculator. Like, he could tell what things are going to happen, and those are some of the fine details that he can't figure out, and that bothered him. He thought it was going to be Howard. He knew Cooper was sent there to kill him by Moldaver back then, but he could not figure out if Cooper was the reason the bombs dropped. And the thing is, he very well might have been. Because
when he came to New Vegas and he stole it,
yes,
Robert House saw that the projected timeline to the end of the world was moved up to 1 month out or something like that, right?
Yes, it moved up very quickly.
Yeah.
So Cooper would steal it from a young Hank McClane which is, again, crazy, who worked with his wife, Barbara, who throughout a lot of that season, you thought was just one of the main villains. You thought Barbara was just a terrible person. Turns out she's not. She's just a mouthpiece and was threatened, but she was trying to keep a vault for her family. But anyway, she knew Hank, or he knew Hank. Hank was keeping the diode, what was known as the relic later, stole it from Hank and gave it to who he thought was a safe individual. After working with a politician, which I cannot remember her name, she's a soft-spoken, quiet lady, a local politician trying to make change and a difference with the corporatizing of her federal government. She got a deal, or she got a meeting with the president, who was played by Clancy Brown, who's Mr. Krabs. And Cooper Howard, with this meeting, gave the diode to the president, which is hinted to have potentially been one of the first dominoes to fall in ensuring that the bombs would drop over the U.S. The reason is because the president, as we said earlier, was the head, or at least the figurehead of the Enclave, as we know it now. When that happened, after that happened, Cooper and his wife were like, we can relax. Maybe we go up to Bakersfield or Colorado, which they had hinted at throughout the entire season. Then all the phones went off, all these little, payphones. Thank you. Cooper answers, and who's on the phone? None other than Robert House, and he says, it wasn't me that's doing this, and I'm sorry. And he turns around, and the U.S. government arrests Cooper Howard for non-American activities, thus revealing that he probably was the reason the bombs dropped, at least at the pace that they did. Major plot points unresolved. Going into season 3, the Battle of Las Vegas, Kaisar's Legion versus the NCR, the Brotherhood versus the Commonwealth, or Brotherhood versus Brotherhood, that whole war within the Brotherhood of Steel, the Ghoul and his family in Colorado, because, again, the Ghoul, after thinking he found his family, discovers that their cryopods are empty, but he finds a postcard for Colorado, which they had talked about right before he was captured. He knows they're alive, he says, and he goes to Colorado. Not finished with the Ghoul, his recruitment by the mutants, which, by the way, the mutant that recruited him or trying to recruit him was Ron Perlman.
And people are saying it's his buddy from the war,
which would be awesome. Robert House officially has the cold fusion. They didn't talk anymore about that. He just is alive, and he has the most powerful device in all of human history powering his resurrection. That's going to come back.
We saw like tease that he was still in his tower, but that's where Lucy and Max are.
Yes.
Before the fight. So we'll see how Robert House works with Lucy, because she's going to be the one that carries Robert House instead of.
Yes.
There was a Pit Boy with Robert House on it that the Ghoul had, but he left it in the vault downstairs. There's probably going to be another Pit Boy. He's going to download himself to hers or something like that. And then that's what I kind of wanted. I wanted to see the Robert House and the Ghoul partnership, and him wearing a Pit Boy and just Robert House talking all the time. But I knew that was too good to be true, because the Ghoul would never carry the Pit Boy, nor would he have Robert House yapping the whole time.
So Pit Boy destroyed.
I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed like that Robert House like giving the backstory or talking.
But what's so cool, like the reason is because think about our knowledge of Robert House, like this legendary villain in all of video game and just media. And then you have him talking in all of the because he sounds like the game. Like this is the perfect adaptation of Robert House, talking to this character that has every fingerprint imaginable on the reason the world is now. So that powerhouse of conversation when he had the Pit Boy on was just chilling. It gave
I just
chills.
find Robert House just intriguing, just because of the vast knowledge and puppet master style. I don't know. I like him because he's so friggin' smart and interesting to listen to, how he deduces or thinks of things, whether or not he's a good guy or not. Yeah, well, he didn't know. I mean, that one thing he didn't know, but I guarantee you he'll figure it out. So I can't wait to see how he continues to play a part in season 3. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, so we only have 2 more major plot points that we are thinking of that could possibly, because obviously they're going to come up with more, but Hank's development and research spread throughout the wasteland, because remember, that mind control device is already spread. It's out there. So who knows what's going to go on with that. And then lastly, phase 2 of Vault 31 and the continued, or 32 and 33, and the continuation of FEV. So there's a lot of story arcs going on. There's a lot of stuff. It's something else too to think about. So Hank will no longer be a villain because as he revealed to Lucy that he has already spread his research far and wide with this mind control device, Lucy had, at the time, had implanted one of his miniature devices in Hank. And the idea was that she would use him with the threat of being mind controlled and memory erased to do what she wanted and to get what she wanted, and then to make him, as she said, into the father I know you to be, or that you should have been. Little did she know Hank had a ace up his sleeve and pulls out his own control, like his own device that controls the chip and erases his own memory.
And turns on everybody out in the wasteland that he's already. Yeah.
Yes. So Hank McClane is no more. Hank McClane is dead, effectively. And that is how we got to where we are. That's all of the story arcs, more or less. There's obviously things that we would have missed because there's so much friggin' story.
Congresswoman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess we do have to talk about that. The reason the people act the way they do when they are implanted, because they're all super nice people. They're all just pleasant. They do what they're told, and they're just good people after they've been implanted, after their memories have been erased. Because the device that's implanted within them, whenever it's active, it's based upon a certain person, a certain person's, what is a good word you'd say that? They're not their demeanor, but how they act, right? Mm-hmm. It's the way that Hank was describing this person. They're pleasant. They're good to be around. They're just a good everyday person. Remember the politician that we said earlier that got Cooper Howard the meeting with the president 200 years ago? They used her head. Her head was the one who was feeding the information of how to act and like what ideal personality they should inhibit and what they should take after. All of those people that you see with the chip is based on that one woman, which I'm sorry, I don't remember her character's name, but Lucy ended up killing her like on her request, right? Like she was like, please kill me because she's 200 years old and she's a rotting head with wires sticking out of it that they're using for information. But not before all that personality and that data could be transmitted to every single device that's implanted in everyone's neck. So now you're caught up. Now you're caught up and we've talked about it. So my thoughts, just really quick. I wrote a couple paragraphs and then we'll get to our review because we're running long here. I find it fascinating how the idea of history repeats itself is something that is used constantly in this show, and specifically as an excuse for Vault-Tec and the Enclave as an extension to justify the ends to its own means, right? So it's like we are ensuring these things play out, and we have these reasonings, but we're going to rig the game because they're in Vegas, right? Like they use that terminology a lot, like we're rigging the game. The house always wins, right? So the entire season, or the entire reason, I should say, Vault-Tec, Robco, and the other companies came into power was due to a resource war and the actual war, which again, we talked about earlier. The Cold War in this universe wasn't between the USSR and the US. It was between China in the US, which turned into an actual war. And that war birthed these companies who made money off of what would become the apocalypse, right? So henceforth, the shadow government was born because they had to ensure that war kept going on because they could control everything. And they wanted to create their ideal society. Right? They wanted to create their ideal whatever. No one could challenge who they were if they controlled everything. So Vault-Tec constantly claims that war is inevitable, and Jake demanded that I say it. War never changes. As he says, it's fan service. That's their claim. Mm-hmm. We see this play out in real time. Think about it. China and the US, back in the 60s, 200 years before the current date. Then 2 different wars break out. 2 different Cold Wars that were kind of inevitable, like the China-US Cold War in this universe. Again, the Legion and the NCR, and then the Brotherhood versus the other factions in the Commonwealth, right? It's fascinating to see these things happen because, again, as we pointed out, the Enclave and the Vault-Tec, who remains a Vault-Tec, will say, humans are human, they're all going to fight. That's something you hear constantly throughout the first 2 seasons by Hank, especially. The top changes you. Humans are going to fight. Humans are going to do this, but they are rigging the game. Hank destroyed the NCR when the NCR was prosperous. If the NCR remained at the level they were at before Hank destroyed them in season 1, would there be these factions? Yes, more than likely, but would they be at war like we see them? No, because there's a power struggle that the NCR had obtained and had conquered before they were destroyed.
But the problem is the Enclave.
Yes,
he destroyed
right.
the NCR because they were too powerful.
Yes,
to
on the
fight back
Enclave's
against the
behest.
Enclave.
Yes.
Yeah. They would have fought back and have been too powerful.
So it's fascinating to me. And like, this is like my big thoughts. And again, this is someone who I'm not the biggest, like, I'm not the most diehard fan of the series. I'm a super casual. It's fascinating to see a company or like a body, a villainous body, right? Say, this is just human nature, and then rig the game at every step. Like, it's obvious that they are making the things happen that they're using. Like, they're not just justifying the ends to their means. The justification is rigged. So they're saying humans are just this way, and then they're ensuring that humanity fights itself at every turn so that they can convince everyone around them that the reason they're doing it is justified. That is so intriguing to me. So I'm curious to see how things continue. So that was my main thoughts and my main takeaways, was how deep it goes and how fascinating it is, and how much of a mirror does it show on our own reality. It's kind of another thought too, is like with more businessy, not necessarily like governmental, but you know what I'm saying. Anywho, Jake, this series, or this season especially, earned a 96% from both, a unilateral 96% from the tomato meter and the popcorn meter. How rare is it? We talked about a couple of them on the show. How rare is it that the tomato meter and the popcorn meter, the critics and the audiences are both like, yeah, this is amazing. 96% from each. So it was great. So Jake, we had to limit our reactions or our reviews a bit. We were doing out of 10, but now we're doing out of 5 due to design
averages,
design reasons.
Well,
but and averages, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we dropped it down a little bit because of Ryan. He's a negative Nancy. But
I'm not a negative Nancy.
I think as a gamer who has played some of the games and looks forward to playing more of them, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5, which is a 9 out of 10. Yeah, I just think it's what a Fallout show, or it's what a game TV show should be. I think they do it right. There are things that are odd, and it's like, why'd you make that decision? But ultimately, I know that they've got the writers know what they're talking about, and they leave Easter eggs, and they're knowledgeable about the lore, to the point where they literally do not touch what happened in the games. Like, they're that knowledgeable. And so is it full of fan service? Sure, but like you see with tomato meter and popcorn meter, it's a good show. It's a good show because you can get behind all of the different timelines. They're all good storylines. So I give it, it's up there. It's up there. I think there's a lot of fan service, which they have to do. And I think that's probably why I'd knock it a few, because sometimes it takes away, or like you had pointed out with the rad roaches, it was just kind of odd that they had chose certain things to show and whatnot. Whereas, like, another thing I would pull in was like the Deathclaw fighting, where he would do really well against one, and then he wouldn't do very well with another one.
Yeah, the Deathclaws too is like, how many times have you ran up in like one of their, like, I don't know, there's a certain term for it, but the mech suits from the Brotherhood, right? Like in the game, they're not that easy to kill. And I know it's like he's fighting 15 of them, so he has to be able to get through them.
Well, people are arguing that armor is one of the best armors in the entire lore now, like even better than the Enclaves, because of all of its armaments, jetpack, rockets, knives.
Dude, that's just, for my mind, that's just the same as like in Star Wars when they're like, how are they going to solve this? And they say the Force. It's like, well, just put him in another mech suit and just say it's the best one. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't.
Well, like, people are power scaling this, the armor, and saying that, like, of all of the armor sets you can get, this one is up there because of all of its buffs and stats.
Right.
And people are actually like breaking down the stats of each of the characters and where their charisma and strength and perception, like they're actually rating them. But Ryan, I'm interested to hear your score.
So I won't even lie. No, like, my score is lower than Jake's, and the reason I gave my personal score is because I feel like
he's a hater.
The way that our scores leveled out made for what I thought was and I know I'm rigging the games. Call me the Enclave, right? I feel like this is what the series should be, because I don't think it's better than season 1. I think it's a fantastic season. 9 months ago, I would have told you the quintessential and the best comprehensive look of what a live action adaptation should be was How to Train Your Dragon. I would have said that is the best live action adaptation of a animation of a game ever. I am taking that back, because after 2 seasons of Fallout, this is the way to do it. It's a new story. You're not telling the same thing twice, and you're not harming the legacy of the games before it. You're taking perfectly from the concept material. You're adapting it, honoring it, and making it new without running players towards a certain choice or away from the gaming experience.
I'd
Great
put The
job.
Witcher in that running before Fallout.
I would the way The Witcher's ended. I mean,
Well,
until
not with the ending. Cavill's Witcher. Everything after
Cavill's.
that didn't happen.
but then it's not ended. So I don't know. I would say Fallout, until Fallout has its inevitable fall off, I would say Fallout's better right now. The other things that I love about this series is like, and I'm gonna say character development, and that's such like a cliche thing to say, but I love so you have characters, and it's one thing when a character acts a certain way. Some things that we run into with like these shows is we run out of like justifications for why characters are certain ways. The thing I love about this is like the ghoul in present day is so bitter and he's so hateful. And a lot of times during season 1, you're like, okay, like I can see it literally in his skin. His nose is missing. He obviously has gone through a lot of pain. He's hunting for his family. Like I can understand why he's this way. But whenever you get the development, you learn about Cooper Howard. And you learn how he was not just this good man and he lost his family, but he is a large reason. He plays a large part into why he's lost his family, into why the world is the way he is, into why he looks the way he does. Everything he hates really is his own doing, even though he was trying to do good. I love the learning of the naive characters of Max and Lucy. They were very much mirrors of each other, even though one was born on the surface and one was born under the ground. They have the same arcs, right? Mm-hmm. So I just love their developments. I love how they're developing together. And again, it is the quintessential development of a live action. But here's the thing. It's not better than season 1, and I would give season 1 a 4.5. So the negatives are, I think that at times there are too many things going on. There are too many characters, and you can neglect certain story arcs like we've described before. Sometimes, I won't even lie, there were times where midway through the season, I don't want to say I was bored, but I was having a tough time because there was so much information being thrown at, and especially as someone who didn't play the games, it was tough to kind of try to play catch up. And that's not necessarily their fault, but as a viewer, it did hurt the experience a little bit. There were so many things going on, and there were so many things being thrown at me, whether it's an Easter egg or whether it's a story point, that it was a little difficult. Not hard, but it's like you go back or you rewatch it or you look something up. Like, it's not like it's that bad, but it did kind of take away from the experience because I had to stop and like do the research, which again, is not their fault, but I do think they were a little full on the character limit. I think they had a lot of characters. So for that, and because I wanted it to be a 4 out of 5, because I don't think it's better than season 1. Yes, I'm rigging it so the Beyond the Screen rating is what I think it should be. I'm sorry. I'll go first next time so Jake can rig it. I gave it a 3.5. Not because I think it is alone a 3.5. It is better than a 3.5, but I think it's a 4. I think it's a 4 out of 5. So the official Beyond the Screen review, the comprehensive review, is 4 out of 5 film reels. It is 4 out of 5. Fallout Season 2 is fantastic. It's not flawless, but it is good. It is definitely worth the 96% on Rotten Tomatoes from both audience and critics. I still don't think it's better than Season 1, but it's fantastic. It does a great job. This is one of the best developments of characters across seasons I think I've seen in a long time. So I'm very, very excited to see how the season moves on. Any final thoughts before we move on to our last segment?
I have none. I think we've yapped for a good while.
All right. So then we'll end our segment. So coming up after the break, we'll go into segment 3 and we'll do an expedited third segment so we can get you guys out of here. We'll tell you about it coming up next. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Screen. You made it to segment 3, which, as always, is usually real or fake and what you should know before you go. But because we've yapped for so long and we don't want to go too far over our 2-hour limit, I'm calling an audible here. We're going to run through everything really quickly. We're going to run through everything like everything is what you should know, and we're going to talk about the ones that matter to us the most. So instead of having 6 stories, we're going to have 9. So we're going to have a bit of a more full what you should know. Yes, we're going to blitz it. So the way that our final segment works, the final thing we do on our show every single week, week in and week out, is we go over the rest of the stories that didn't really make the cut into needing a huge description, but were something that you should still know, and we give you our opinions. Let's start with Disney and Pirates of the Caribbean, because I love that series, and I want to continue and talk about it. Reported by industry insider Jeff Snyder, Pirates of the Caribbean 6 will reportedly be featuring the son of Jack Sparrow and Margot Robbie as the series' new main characters. Margot Robbie playing a new character in particular.
The
Moving
son
on.
of Jack Sparrow and Margot Robbie.
Yeah, are the
Is
two
she the
new
mom?
leads. I don't know.
Oh.
We will figure it out. There will be the two new leads. Moving on. Kevin Spacey reportedly has gone on record to say he would be open to playing Private Island Boy in a biopic about his life if one were to ever be made. You know who
it is.
You know who Private Island Boy is. We'll probably name drop him here in a second, or Jake will name drop him.
I already did.
Let's
earlier.
Again. Let's move on. Craig Mazin of Chernobyl and The Last of Us fame is reportedly heading a Baldur's Gate 3 adaptation with Hasbro. The series will act as a continuation of the game's story, not a retelling like The Last of Us. Mazin is reportedly a huge Baldur's Gate 3 fan and a D&D fan, which D&D is the world that Baldur's Gate 3, that universe, it's in that universe. So he's a fan of both and reportedly is excited to develop this. Moving on, Josh D'Amaro, chairperson of Walt Disney Pictures and Resorts, or Walt Disney Parks and Resorts, will now officially replace Bob Iger as CEO of Disney. So now he's over the motion picture side.
And he's perpetuating AI, right?
He said
he's
AI
on board.
won't take over human, but he is on board with AI. So he's a fence rider. Anyway,
his first day in office.
yeah, he's like, I will not take a side. Well, yeah, he doesn't want to rock the boat too much his first day in office, the head of Disney. An animated Ghostbusters film is in the works at Sony. DC's Clayface has been postponed to October 23rd, 2026, just in time for Halloween. Dan Trachtenberg of Prey and Predator Badlands fame has signed a 3-year first look deal with Paramount. A new Texas Chainsaw Massacre series is in the works at A24, reportedly with Glenn Powell and the Long Walk writer J.T. Molnar attached. And lastly, Stranger Things star Matthew Modine. How do you say that name? Modine? Matthew Modine. I'm going to say Modine. Or Modin. Stranger Things star Matthew Modine, who portrayed Martin Brenner, or Papa, in Stranger Things, was asked by fans online if he enjoyed the series' controversial ending. In his response, listen to this, y'all. He had a lot to say. He said, nope.
And he also said that he he hopes for the fans that there's an episode 9, right? There won't be. But he hopes. He's praying for you guys.
I feel like Netflix will be those people to wait. They'll give it 6 months and they'll slowly reach under the table to the all the cast and crew and the Duffer Brothers, and they'll be like, if you come back and make one more episode, we'll pay you a lot of money. Just say we had it in the plans the whole time. And that will be what will happen.
The guy's going to have to get back with his wife just to make that happen.
Please write me another episode. The theory that, was it Matt Duffer? Emily might know. Whichever Duffer, his wife wrote it because she was helpful.
Whichever one's divorced.
Yeah, the one's wife, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Please come back. Just, I don't even care. Just write the last episode. Yeah, that might happen. But anyway,
Ross.
Of all of these, what I find funny is Kevin Spacey being like, I'll play him. I'll do it. And then this is what we were joking about earlier, that Mark Ruffalo will show up and hunt down Kevin Spacey on Private Island Boys Island. Do you think
game recognizes game?
Sebastian Stan returns as Donald Trump.
That's a crazy crossover.
The multiverse is real.
It's like the end game of
the
awesome. Island.
That'd be awesome. No, it wouldn't be awesome. It'd be hilarious. Anyway, I want to talk about Craig Mazin last because I feel like we both have a lot of opinions about that. If it's Sony, if it's like the animation, huh?
I've not played either.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
If it's the same Sony team behind what's about to come out in GOAT and the Spider-Verse, and that's Ghostbusters, I think that would look sick. Just because it's Ghostbusters, that aura, the haunting. Think about the don't cross the streams. That's the joke. But imagine their packs, that orange and purple light that shoots out when they're capturing ghosts. Imagine how that would look in the Spider-Verse animation. That'd be awesome. I would love to see that. I actually don't mind Clayface being pushed back.
That's probably a good idea.
To Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah. They get people in the mood. Whatever gets people out there. I think that would work.
The images I see is just body horror, right?
Yeah.
So
it'll be so good. Are you going to go watch that as a non-horror fan?
I don't know. Is Batman in it?
Jake, date night.
Is Pattinson in there?
I'll go, Jake, like my arm across. Jake's like leaning in.
Dude.
We'll go together.
Yeah,
Tell your
sure.
girlfriend you're mine for about 2 hours
All right.
as we watch Clayface.
I
Anyway,
gotta go to Do I gotta go to your place? Dang.
I'll drive up. I don't care. Anyway, I have no opinion on Josh D'Amaro. I will say I read somewhere that his side as Walt Disney Parks and Resorts, he made up like over 2/3 of the Disney like brand's entire revenue for years, because like parks and resorts, they make the most money for them. So he was head over that side. He has really I don't think he has any TV experience, but he has like money experience, which is why they brought him on, is because he like made them a lot of money for a while. So he is now the guy. I think what would be best is if he just handed off the TV to those who actually do that. I hope he doesn't try to make too many calls, other than maybe like, hey, you there, major producer who would know how to run this, you're hired. And then he just kind of keeps his hands off. Because I think Bob Iger had like a long history in like television, and he like actually, I could be wrong. I don't know his backstory, but it felt like he did because he was always making those calls. So I don't know. I would like to see if someone who doesn't have his backstory or doesn't have the background in TV and film, I'd hope that he would take his hands off the reins and just trust the people he hires. But I doubt that'll happen because it's the D'Amaro era, and he'll probably want to, as a 60-year-old with money, he'll probably want to make it his. But who knows? And now let's go ahead and get on the last thing. Craig Mazin. Oh, Craig. He got a lot
People are not happy.
No. Well, did you play The Last of Us?
No. But I'm surprised that there's a crossover between the two audiences. I wouldn't have expected the Baldur's Gate 3.
Gamers.
I guess so. Like I guess The Last of Us is so big that it encompasses a lot of different demographics of gamers, and
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate 3 being as big as it was, like I didn't get into it because I'm not a super huge D&D fan and didn't care for I guess the gameplay, kind of like how it was structured. It's like just not my type of game, even though it looked fun. Like I'm not going to say what didn't look fun, it's just not my type of game. So I was just a little surprised that it's like, oh wow, there's a lot of people who are into Baldur's Gate 3 who love this IP that are also worried after watching The Last of Us that, or at least season 2, that their beloved game would get ruined on the big screen, or not the big screen, but the TV series.
If it were just Mazin, I would be okay, because I mean the guy made Chernobyl, which is an award-winning series, and the thing is, The Last of Us season 1 was genuinely good. The problem with The Last of Us is when they started deviating from the game. The second, it just made no sense, and it was weird. Like, it wasn't even a good story for it being what it was. If it was a deviation and it was a good story and it made sense for these characters, it wouldn't matter. No one would care. But they just were so out of character, and they were so far from the source material at some points that it just didn't make sense. And then whenever, like, it was weird because it would deviate, and then it would somehow land on moments from the game. And when those moments would happen, because the character is so different, they reacted differently. And it was dumb. Like, it was just like, why is that happening? Like, I think of, like, for those who played the game, stabbing of the baby, like, or the baby, not the stabbing of the baby, the stabbing of the pregnant woman. Like that whole scenario, like, of how that happened and how Ellie got to that point and all that stuff, like, that was so different. And then it just, instead of her being a cold-blooded killer, getting into a situation and defending herself, Bella Ramsey's portrayal was she was genuinely terrified, and she acted like she didn't know what she was doing. And it's like, this is Joel's redemption. In the game, you felt like there was a bloodlust, and in the show, there just wasn't, and it made no sense. So I understand. But the thing is again, let's say we take those three things. 2/3 of what he made was award-winning, great television. The thing that worries me is the game studio behind Baldur's Gate 3 is not there.
Yeah, that's even worse.
That is troubling. That's where I'm like, okay, again, we're following the Amazon, and we're following the Fallout train, where they're developing new stories and they're not touching, like, they're just adding to the legacy. Good. Chernobyl, good. Season 1 of The Last of Us, good. Season 2, not good. No developer in, like, helping developing the show, video game developer, I should say, not good. So I'm worried. I have some apprehension, and I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a big D&D fan, but I love like the fantasy realm. As I said before, as a major Skyrim player, I think if I had friends who played D&D, I would have loved D&D. And I know a lot of people who love Baldur's Gate, and it's near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. I worry about the quality of show if it's Mazin and just Mazin, because when we've seen that, when it deviates from source, there's problems. And the whole premise of this is deviating from source. So who knows? Who knows?
So, yeah, Bethesda was 100% involved with game studios and their Softworks company involved in the creation of Fallout. So, like,
What you see?
you have to have that involvement from the studio. I wouldn't want them to make a Skyrim without Bethesda there, or I forget which company did God of War, but I hope that they're there.
They probably will be. It's Amazon as well. I would.
Right.
So Larian Studios, I wanted to name drop the developer behind Baldur's Gate. The game is Larian. They're not involved. I wanted to give them some props for their creation.
So odd.
Yeah, it's just a strange decision. Like, I remember Naughty Dog was involved until season 2. Like the guy that was making, so I can't remember his name off the top of my head. We actually talked about it on the show a year ago. That guy left, I think, at some point in the creation of season 2 to go, or no, maybe he was still there for season 2. He left for now what is going to be season 3 to go make more games for Naughty Dog because he was like, I don't want to work on this anymore. So
we see now.
So I don't know. It just feels like there was a lot of deviation, and maybe the reason he left was because he wasn't being listened to, type of deal. Who knows? But anyway, any other thoughts on Craig Mazin?
Good luck to those who are looking forward to Baldur's Gate 3 live action.
I agree. We didn't talk about Texas Chainsaw. I have no thoughts on that.
I think we've talked about that a long time ago on who would finally win, and it was A24. And then there was talks that like Glenn Powell would be attached if it was A24,
and he is.
There it is. So that's how.
Anyway, I think that's a great way to end the show. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, do the whole 9. Tell your grandma, tell all your family. We love you. Please comment. Everything goes a long way. Whenever you subscribe, you follow, you like, you share, everything. It really does help, and we love you guys, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you guys for sticking around for a long episode of Beyond the Screen.